into our 25th year in August of this year. It'll be 25 years. The actual concept of Men at Work, believe it or not, started in 1995. There were a Million Man March in Washington, D.C. Myself along with a bus load of other men from Anderson, we rode up. And one of the things that Minister Farrakhan said that day is that, you know, that particular city, town, or community that you were from, that he wouldn't be coming back to that community. He's going back to Chicago. He said, but what he would love for every man that attended that atonement day were to go back to his community and to actually start to do something that was positive to help other young men. We came back with that idea and we organized in 97, lay dormant for a year just to do a study, just to see what the needs were, to make sure that we didn't duplicate, reinvent the wheel. Then after coming back and we kind of looking at our community and other things and seeing where we thought we could be of the biggest help, we thought that the young people, as well as the elderly, where we could really kind of get involved and make a big difference. And that's where we actually started at. Fortunately, at that time, I was employed with the Anderson Housing Authority, which gave us access to a lot of young men. We thought that there was a tremendous need because in the apartment complex where I actually worked at all 5 sites, but 2 of them had a large number of young people, which was Westview Heights apartment complex and Fortson Home. And we started to work there with the young men because sad to say about 90% of the home was headed by a single female. There was homes without a lot of dads. So we became big brothers, we became their friends, and in some cases we became father figures. That's how we honestly got started. And then we had to decide, well, you know, what would be the goal? What would we do? We thought character building was certainly necessary, which we certainly tried to do that. We also, in formulating the ministry itself, we wanted to make sure that we brought men in that certainly were committed into helping develop the young men into men. 90% of our men at that time were deacons in their churches. However, most of us were from different churches, and we thought that was a plus too, because we thought if we could show the community how the churches could come together and make a difference in the community, that might motivate and encourage other churches to do the same. So we sat down, we kind of decided we wanted to make education one of our key focuses. And then at the same time, we also know we wanted to do some type of skill building. Kind of fast forwarding a little bit, there's a gentleman in our group, Mr. Bobby Simmons, along with Mr. Ervin, the vice president. These gentlemen had multiple skills that they could work with the children with because of past jobs. Also, most of us are retired, and that kind of lends us the time necessary to help develop these young men. Then exposure became a concern, an issue. We wanted to expose them to the outside world, meaning that outside of the communities that they lived in, because there was limited opportunities that they had. I mean, you know, the moms in the home, they did tremendous jobs in what they could with what they had. But we began to travel to different states, whether we would go to Washington, D.C. We took them to a lot of historical sites there, which we we say was educational, because the two goals were to develop educational and recreational activities for them. Then we certainly took them to professional football games, basketball games. We traveled to zoos. We did museums. So we tried to expose them to a variety of opportunities. We even partnered with Anderson University, which provided an opportunity for us to sleep over. So that certainly introduced them to a higher education of learning, in hopes that they was young then, and hope that later on in life and as they go through school that they would certainly pursue a higher education to come back and possibly help in the very community that they did. We somewhat sort of pats ourselves on the back a little bit, because we had several young men that went on to be veterinarians. Sean Ellis, which went on to play professional football, both for New England as well as the New York Jets. Chadwick Boseman, which we all know and heard about, which came through the program. We've had several other young men that Mr. Ervin was shouting to tell you about that came through and had some great accomplishments. However, we also want to make sure that people understand. Usually, when they see men working with young men, sometime preconceived ideas say, well, those must be gentlemen or young men they're working with that's been in trouble. No, sir, that was not the case. The reason why we brought this organization together, it was just to help give them a little extra nudge, to provide just a better opportunity for them to become who they have become. We do have some young men that have gotten themselves in trouble. However, we make sure that they understand, even though they made a mistake like all of us have, that we're still here for them. We've had some young men that gotten themselves in trouble and spent some time in jail, but have come out, that we have taught with and worked with, that has become great contributors in their community. So we're happy about that. We also have had both them to attend the city councils and county councils, just to find out what's going on in their community. And that's kind of where we are with men at work. We certainly, the spiritual side of things is very important to all of our men, because as I said from the beginning, all of our gentlemen, most of them are deacons in their church, so we certainly try to make sure that our young men build a base or a foundation that when everything else goes awry, they still have something to stand on. And quite a few of them have done that, and we're proud of them for that. We kind of also let them know success doesn't always mean being a superstar, achieving high goals, just being a contributor. And you make sure that you care about somebody other than yourself. And sometimes it's just mean working a 9 to 5 and taking care of the family and you not have. So that's kind of, what we try to do, is make sure that they understand, in this world in which we live in, anything you do positive is needed.
Do you have any idea how many young men have come through the program over the years, roughly?
Over the 25 years, I'm guesstimating that we probably have worked with over 500 boys, give or take. At least that. That's at least that many. And I know one may not agree with me, but even in that, which I would consider a very high achievement rate, I would say at least 75 of those young men have done very well. We have not worked with one young man in talking to all of our counselors that when we meet him, he and his family in a grocery store, in church, or just in a public area, that he does not come back and walk up to us and tell us, I sure appreciate what men at work done for me, because had you not intervened in my life, I don't know what I would have become. And that's the achievements that we have to make sure that we help make that young man a better man.
Have any of them come back to help with the other young men now?
We've had a few to come back, yes sir, we sure have. Matter of fact, we were just getting ready to form a junior group, and the pandemic certainly moved in on us in March, and we have taken a leave of absence because of the social distancing, the virus itself. But our plans are, when we are able to communicate again and to be around each other, is trying to bring that young group of men back into to carry this ministry on another 25 years, because those of us that have put 25 years of leg work in, our legs doesn't quite carry us like they used to.
Have you been able to stay in touch with them at all during this time? I mean, any kind of contact much?
Yes, we've certainly, just by telephone, talked with them. When Christmas came, one of the gentlemen I'm telling you, Sean Ellis, he bought Christmas gifts for about 15 of the young men that attend a program here called Skill Development. The Skill Development class is basically where we bring them in and teach them minor skills, like maybe plumbing, where you may change a handle on one of the controls. We've also brought them in and we did some minimum electrical work. We had them to put a light switch together and then turn it on, and they see the light come on and they're excited about it. And so we've kind of done that, but believe it or not, we're almost going to have to start back over, because we've missed them almost 8 to 9 months, and that's a very long time when you've been working with a group of young men and then you have that absence there. So we certainly, just as soon as we're able, we're going to reconnect with them and start off where we left off at.
Now, how are y'all funded? Who helps fund this?
There's a number of people that has been very instrumental in the funding of this ministry. Mr. Kurt Stutler, when we first started out some years ago, we partnered with the United Way at that time. Reverend Stutler was there. Mrs. Grace Floyd, she's just been immaculate. She has believed in us more than we had ourselves. She made sure she helped us out tremendously. Certainly after her death, we was really hurt by that. And it wasn't so much of the money, certainly we needed it, that Miss Floyd gave. She believed in this program. She believed in this ministry. And just her seeing what we was doing and thought it was worth investing in, she did an awesome job there. Then we've also had some of our own men that's members of this ministry have supported us there. The housing authority has provided both transportation as well as buildings to allow us to do the things that we do. Mr. Roberts, which is a contractor here in Anderson, when he's on city council, he helped us out a lot. It's just that we are just so humbled by so many people that has helped us, and as I said, the finances were necessary, but just their support, their word of confidence. Me sitting here now talking with you, that's support, because what happened means that somebody have heard what we've done and thought it was worthwhile doing this. St. George's Episcopal Church on 81 on the right-hand side, they have been a great supporter of us. And I get a little scary when I start calling names, because even though all of these names I've given you, I feel that I've left somebody out. And I certainly don't want to forget the wives of all the men that's in this ministry that have certainly allowed us to leave our home and sometimes our own families to help others. So we the help has always been there, and certainly couldn't have done any of it if it wasn't for the Lord. People need to know that. Yeah, and the City of Allenstown Parks and Recreations was just amazing in what they did. Also, Westside Community Center, we've been there. We've used their facility for overnight events. So we've just, help has always been there. I always think when people see you doing something good, they don't mind helping you, and we are grateful for that. We really are.
And if somebody's watching this and wants to donate or help, how can they help?
Well, actually, my suggestion would be to either contact Mr. Charlie Ervin, which is 864-356-4797, who is the Vice President, Marion Tarrant, at 864-958-0295. We are 501(c), so certainly any checks that you would make out would be made out to men at work, and we certainly would be grateful, because our plan is to, once we get through this pandemic, is to reach back out to the young men and try to help them move forward. This has been a strain on all of us. So we want to make sure we grab them as quick as we can and start to work with them towards something positive. We'll actually want to make sure that they understand education means success. And that's what we want to do. We really do. Creating gentlemen in a time like this. I think Mr. Ervin certainly will pick up wherever I left off. He's very capable, and I thank you for this time.
Tell me how you got involved in this ministry.
I got involved through my brother-in-law. My brother-in-law joined, and he told me about it. And after he told me about what they had planned, it was in 1997. I joined, and that's what got me involved, knowing that he's going to do something for the youth. I like working with kids. So,
what are some of the programs that you've seen that have been successful working with the kids through this ministry?
well, one thing I have to bring up the one we did with the trades, because one thing we thought about was all those kids. Most of them probably weren't going to college, and let them know how important it is if you get you a good trade, the type of living you can make just by knowing how to do something like plumbing or electrical. But our main thing was to get all these trades, get them exposed to all these trades, and maybe they'll decide on which one they like the best. And that's the way they should go. Like Marion was saying earlier, we started out doing carpentry over at Mr. Roberts' place over there. And after we came from there, we started, Bobby was a certified electrician with Michelin for over 30 years, I guess, and I was they called it electromech. I was electrical and mechanical troubleshooter. So I had something to offer to them, and we started doing some of the things that we knew. And we got Jimmy Brown, who has an electrical company, involved. And some of the kids start showing potential. Some of them liked it. So that's the biggest part of it that I liked was, for us lately what we did. But all of it was all of it was important to me though. The trips, expose them to things they've never been exposed to. I think one of the things that really made me think was we carried those kids to a movie one day, and we had a kid say he'd never been to a movie before in his life. You know, he was a good-sized kid. And it made you think about so many other things that they hadn't been exposed to. And you take these kids that hasn't been exposed to all these different things, and you put them in an environment with a lot of other kids that has been exposed, they're gonna be behind because they just hadn't been exposed. It's not that they're intellectually inferior, just a lot of things they just don't know because they've never been around it. It's kind of like getting a man out of a field somewhere and just putting him in the middle of one of these modern factories with all these computers and stuff in it. You know, if you hadn't been exposed, you won't know what to do. So that's one of the biggest things that I liked about it. And just like Marion said, as far as these people that helped us, there were many. Coach Roberts used to help us all. He every year he'd write us a check because he knew what we were doing. And we always had somebody that would come up and find out what we're doing and donate to us. So that kept us going for quite a while. In fact, when we first started, we financed ourselves. Every man had to pay so much each month to finance something that we were doing. So that worked until we started getting donations. And we didn't mind doing it because we saw what the results were, you know, from it. But these, now some of the kids that I've dealt with during this program have gone on to do different things. Like I said, some of them have gone to prison and gotten out. I still have close connection to one of the kids that served prison time, and right now he's doing his own thing. He has a lawn service, and he's doing that. And in fact, I sold him a truck to get started with, and I almost gave it to him, but I wasn't using the truck anyway. And he's really doing well, but he had a life that he wasn't dealt a real good hand, let's say. He came up kind of rough, but I think he's getting it. I think he's caught on to what he needs to do. And he still calls me, we talk. You know, he get problems, he'll call me. And I appreciate him having that much faith in us, you know. Because if he see Marion somewhere, he'll talk with him, you know. But we've got a number of kids like that went off and got in trouble and came back and told us that they know what we were trying to do and they appreciate it. That makes me feel good to know that they really appreciate what we were trying to do. And I guess that's about it as far as I think Marion covered about everything else. So.
Well, I was going to ask you one other thing. What you mentioned, just touched on it right there. What has this done for you? How has this fed your soul, or what has this done for you in your life?
It helps me to help somebody else. It makes me feel good about myself to know that I have done something positive in somebody's life, especially some young person's life. So my daughter is a teacher, and she's always talking about this type of thing, but she doesn't live here, because she said if she was here, she would get involved with what we're doing, and that helps me too, knowing that she would be willing to help if she was in this area. And my oldest son said the same thing, and he lives on the other side of Atlanta, and he likes being involved in stuff like this. So that helps me keep going, knowing my kids would want to do the same thing if they were here.
So you think you get about as much out of it as the kids?
Well, at most times, but the weekends we spend with them, oh, I bet they got more out of me than I could ever get. 'Cause we'd go home tired that Sunday afternoon, each time we spent the weekend with them. Some of them would keep you up and you wouldn't get much sleep, and you could put them down and the next thing you know, you hear something, you know. So sometimes it got a little rough, but all in all, it would be something that you enjoyed, you know, because you'd enjoy, say, 75% of it. You're good. And I think we did that. And we got a lot of kids to, you know, that show that they have some, you know, some positive things about them. It's like, you know, like Marion said, you know, most of those kids, they had a female in the house, no male. And we had one of the classes was just teaching them how to check oil in a car, check the tires, look at the belts and, you know, check the belts. And a lot of those boys, they really enjoyed doing that. And they said they were going to do their mama's car when they got home, you know. Because nobody ever does that around them. Their mother just throw them in the car and crank up and go. You know, most women don't check the oil and belts and tires. And I showed them where to find the tire pressure at. And that's what it should be reading, your tire pressure. So stuff like that really made me feel good to know that you've done something that's important to them.
And have you gotten feedback from some of the moms and families of the kids you've helped? What kind of things do they say? Oh,
the moms, yeah, a lot of the moms really appreciate what we've done. In fact, there's been other women outside that we hadn't done anything with their kids. They have heard about us, and they try to, you know, get their kids involved. So we've had some of that, and they are. There's always somebody calling that need help, but we only have a small. Well, we got about 10 to 12 men at the most dealing with us, and we don't have enough to do all of them. You know, we can't help everybody. And it was it used to be that we really enjoyed the schools. You know, we mentored in the schools. The last school we mentored was the alternative school, and most kids over there got some problems. But they got us over there. We still spent the last 3 years over there. We couldn't get them over there. Mr. D, what's his name? Dillingham, Mr. D. Yeah, he kept wanting us to come back. So we had a good program over there as well.